Namaste to all. Welcome to Clyde Samvada, brought to you by the Hindu Temple of Scotland. If you have been following Clyde Samvada for a while, you know that we have been having quite a number of episodes where we have been trying to look into the Indian music space. Mostly we have been talking only about classical music, where we have talked predominantly about Carnatic music, right from looking at the origins of Carnatic music. We went and talked about couple of the key Carnatic music proponents like Tyagaraja and Muthuswami Dikshidhar. In that series, I recently coincidentally heard a reel in Instagram that was doing a rap around Vishnu Purana, and it was very intriguing for me because that was sort of for the first time that I was hearing the rap segment of music linked to Hinduism or Sanatana Dharma broadly. And Ishen, who is joining us for today's Clyde Samvada, is the person who had produced that. Ishen is based around London, and so we are also trying today the first of the Clyde Samvada, which is done through a remote setup. So, welcome Ishen to Clyde Samvada, and we are keen to hear your journey through Sanatana Dharma and your journey with Hindu rap or Sanatan Hindu rap. I think that's how you kind of classify this genre, right?
Okay, well, thanks for having me on. I do appreciate it. I've watched a few of your videos as well, found them very, educational as well.
Thanks.
So, yeah, I suppose growing up in London, not really in touch with the Indian side of my heritage, as far as the culture goes, we had Indian food from time to time and whatnot. So I'm from a mixed race family. And my dad, he's quite an introverted person. So I didn't really learn about the Vedas or anything like this, but I was always into spirituality. And then when I came across the Bhagavad Gita and I read it for the first time, I had like epiphany, realization. Yeah. So that sort of spoke to me and sort of put me into it gave me like a sort of revelation that Krishna was Bhagawan, because I thought to myself, whoever is speaking this is so masterful, it's what kind of human could speak these words, and I was actually also a little bit disappointed that I hadn't read it earlier, you know growing up in London, it's a bit of a it's a mad environment to grow up
Cosmopolitan,
in.
busy city.
Yeah, and if you got this kind of backbone of spiritual knowledge to aid you, So yeah, when I was always into music and I studied music at college level, and when I was in secondary school I started rapping, and it was almost like my chosen instrument. So I didn't really I do play different instruments and mainly piano and some other instruments as well, but I chose rap as my main instrument, if you know what I mean. Then when, I went to India, me and my wife went to India, we stayed for a year. That was again like a spiritual transformation. I felt like I came back as a different person. We had
When was
initiation
this?
and Gurudev 11,
Okay.
the whole of
And what did you
2011.
do? Like, was it just a trip to like a Varanasi, or like what was it like?
Nah, so what it was, okay, so at this time I'd read the Bhagavad Gita, me and my wife was my wife said, "Oh, I want to go to India." And when I was younger, I always knew that I would go India at some point, but I had a feeling that it would come at the right time, so I just didn't really
Okay.
think about it. So when she asked me, I just said, "Yeah, let's go." So basically, we touched down in India and I realized I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go, nothing like this. But because my wife, she was a devotee already, she said, okay, first let's go Vrindavan. And
Okay.
so the first place we went in India was Vrindavan, where, after 2 weeks, I met my Gurudev and, took Harinam initiation. And so it was a very auspicious start, let's say. And at the end of the trip, we took our Diksha initiation. And so it was sort of like full reborn, But during that time, we would sort of spend some time somewhere and then decide when we want to leave. So we went to Vrindavan, we went West Bengal, Mayapur, Gaya, Varanasi, we went to Vrindavan, we went up to Rishikesh and Chardham, we went Gangotri, Yamunotri, Badrinath, Kedarnath. We went South India into Rajmundry, which is where we took our Diksha initiation. And it was,
Okay.
in South India, it's a lot more colorful and whatnot, yeah.
Mm.
So the yagya was so beautiful. We went round after with our robes, collecting, doing big shout like to different people. And as we was coming through, all the kind of devotees were blowing their conches and that, It was
Nice.
a magical experience, and then we came
This seems
back.
to be like quite a long visit, right? Like, was it like an year-long thing?
Yeah, we went for a
Okay.
year the first time. And then we sort of go back for a month, more or less, every year, practically.
Nice.
Yeah. So anyway,
Okay.
while I was out there, my Gurudev, he advised me, he gave me instruction to read the Bhagavatam. And so as I was reading the Bhagavatam, traveling through India, again, it was like this kind of magical sort of journey, right? And I got to a point in the Bhagavatam where I said, you know what, there's no way I could write anything more beautiful than this, So I said to myself, from this point on, my raps are gonna be about this. I'm gonna use my rapping skills to present Vedanta and to, because it gives so much bliss as well to people, it gives so many answers, and so much, spiritual satisfaction everyone's looking for. So I just use my rapping as a little bit of like a microphone for it,
Nice. And so you've been rapping about Hinduism and Sanatana Dharma from the 2011 itself.
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
I got
Super
like
nice.
3 or 4 albums worth of material, but a lot of it is not recorded.
Just following up from what you said, which is going from reading the Bhagavatam to creating rap from it. Can you kind of take us through that journey? How do you use the content that you are, let's say, reading in a Bhagavatam? And how do you then think about that being prose in rap? Like that piece? Like how can you think about that?
So obviously at this point during my development as a rapper, as a poet, I don't really need to use your basic constructions of like, what you might, if you was to teach it, you would sort of teach different techniques of how to write, right? So I don't really need to do that anymore because I've been doing it for so long, so it just comes natural, right? So a lot of the time it's just me kind of expressing myself and it's just coming out Vedically, right? Because in a way, rap, that's, poetry, rap, that's what it is. It's about expressing yourself. It's about saying something. But a lot of the time it will be on the poet's or the rapper's own experience and that. So where I've now been focused on developing my knowledge of the Vedas, that's what's coming out, right? Other times, there's certain times where I would do a rap, like I did a rap about Kapila, which is it's almost word for word what is written in the Bhagavatam, because it's kind of written in a poetic way. So I just kind of turn it into rhymes. Other times, I might have an album, right? So like, for example, I got an album called Soul of a Sadhu, right? And this one, all the songs are relative to that central theme, right? So it's kind of like that. It's about drawing. It's part of being a lyricist. It's about knowing certain perspectives. It's about knowing how to approach certain subjects. And then other times you just throw all the rules out the window and you just write, and you just get a nice a beat and you just write to it. Sometimes I'm more direct with it, and other times I'm more subtle with it. So someone might not know that what they listen to is actually Vedic philosophy, and other times they will clearly know. You see what I mean? Like, don't read mass, read Vishnu Purana, where that's clear. But then sometimes, like when I'm speaking like this, I say to you, don't read mass, read Vishnu Purana. That's just for a starter. Then go on to the Mahabharata. That's if you want to know Dharma. Then go on to the Mahapuran if you want to know Bhagawan, but always keep with your Bhagavad Gita. That way you're going to be a lot more
Can you give us
sweeter.
with a bit of the beat of it? I mean, like the two versions, right? You have one where you have the philosophy or the content really talking to it, like the Vishnu Puran one, and the other one where you said it doesn't do that. I mean, can you kind of give us
It's more
like
subtle.
10 seconds, 20
So for
seconds
example,
of the two variants?
So I've got this one where it's what do you call it? Let me tell you something. Never was there nothing. there was always something that supports us to be. Some will say it's nothing, but I will never be negative, and so I keep an ace up my sleeve. Some will say that it's some kind of force, or some say it's a river that must run its course. But I'ma say, who am I to decide but abide by that light that must be the Lord? Rain clouds all up in them light waves now. I don't need to tell you which way now. Tell a slave it's your birthright now. All free, not you don't need to click pay now. In these sick days where the rich get paid and the poor get played, and it's all just a game to them. So I'm blaming them for the state of this world. Yo, it's time we start facing them, right? So then later on it says, blissed out chanting on them names, so much so I left my phone on the train. Here we go, I ain't saying it won't happen again. I'm just saying all I see is a cloud full of rain and it's ready to blow. You know, so
Yeah, super interesting.
using the, you know, because Krishna is depicted as having a rain cloud complexion, right? So I'm saying rain clouds all up in them light waves now. I don't need to tell you which way now, you know. So sometimes, you know, it's more, I'm bringing in general philosophy or, you know, like but it's backed up by the understanding of Vedas, but it would be understood by lots of different people. But then when I say, you know, so when I said referencing things like rain clouds and things like that, which we understand on a different level, but other people
Correct.
just say, oh, that's quite nice, right? But then the interesting thing about the first version, the first example, don't read mass, read Vishnu Purana, right? All of those terms that I'm using there, only Sanatan people would be able to follow, right? Because I'm saying Vishnu Puran, they don't know what Vishnu Puran. Mahabharata, they don't know that. Mahapuran, Bhagawan, they don't know these words. So I'm actually, now we're speaking in a Vedic language that is, it's like we're speaking another language, basically.
Yeah.
I'm using English, but I'm using Vedic terms. And of course, English is also like a broken form of Sanskrit. So, you know, it's kind of like I can communicate to the Indian diaspora on a different level than the rest of, you know,
Got you. Because like I think I heard the one that got me introduced to your music was the Vishnu Puran one, and I think that had what, over 2.5 million views, something like that, right? On Instagram.
Yeah. That one's got over 1 million now. Yeah, that one's done well. Because, you know, I thought, but that one, you know, I wrote that one so long ago. You know, this is what I mean. I've got like lots of these different raps or whatever. But also it plays into our tradition because, you know, what is the Vedas? You know, they're all rhyming. You know, these are all, you can sing them, you can rap them, you know, when you hear the Vedic pundits. And, you know, the other thing is that this is, you know, there were also poets in Vedic times that would do this in Sanskrit, right? So they would compose, you know, there's a story from Mahaprabhu's Leela of this guy, he had blessings of Saraswati, and he could compose verses on the spot, basically freestyle verses, but they were very deep.
That's a very, very interesting way of looking at this.
Yeah, so, and when you think about Valmiki, right? Valmiki was sitting there, and then he, you know, he saw the hunter and he saw the kill the crane, and then he did this imprecation, and he was like, actually, this kind of rhymes. I kind of like the flow here, you know? So actually, I feel more like rap. Hip hop is one thing, that's a cultural thing, right? But rap itself, this is really the original rappers were the Vedic sages of old. And if you go right back, the original rapper is Krishna himself, you know, rapping to Brahma way back in the
That's a very, very interesting way of looking at it. I have never thought of that way unless you put it to me that way, because like we have done an episode previously where we have talked about mantra, and every mantra has a rishi, chandas and devata. Which is a rishi who basically envisioned the mantra. Chandas is basically like your beat almost, which is like the rhythm or the number of syllables in it, those sorts of things. And devata is who the mantra is about. So even if you look at Vishnu Sahasranamam, it has a rishi, chandas, devata. If you have a Gayatri mantra, it has a rishi, chandas, devata. This I've talked always about it from that point of view, but the conceptualization of that from the way you are putting it is very resonating to that conceptualization of how a mantra is conceived, which is, let's say, the creative expression of the rishi in some way. It has a beat to it. In your case, it's a musical beat. The other one has anushtup, trishtup, different types of these beats, and then you have the devata, which is the god on which the mantra is done. In your case, you have Krishna on whom the rap is on. Oh, that's a very, very interesting way of looking at this.
Yeah, I mean, to add to that, I would say, a mantra, like, I feel like they're a bit deeper, yeah? Like, when you read in, say, the Shastras, and it's not all mantras, right? You'll have certain mantra, then it will explain, right? The mantra, I feel, is more like a drill,
Yeah.
because it just drills into basically it drills through your false ego, your mental level, your emotional level into the soul, and then starts to allow that soul nature, original nature, to emerge. So I feel like mantras are a little bit, they're not real, like the rapping is probably more closely aligned with the actual shastras themselves, right? Which contain mantras. But I feel like mantras I have on a whole nother, because it's associated with a deva. It's like it takes you to the level of that deva. It takes you to where that deva is, or it brings you there. So it's kind of like a lot more mystical. You know what I mean?
Totally. Because, like, again, for somebody who has not listened to our previous episode on mantra, we in that episode talk about the 6 elements of a mantra. So Rishi Chandra's Devata is where I can make this connection overlap in some way, very loosely. But if you look at the other 3 elements, which is talking about things like Shakti, Kilakam is like the lock. So Kilakam is like what unlocks the power of a mantra. Right, so on those elements, I think it's a very different thing. So that kind of talks to the mysticism, spirituality, deeper connection to the soul elements of it. Slightly different from how you will look at it from the Rishis and the Sun.
Yeah, I did appreciate that breakdown that you gave, because I watched that episode, and I think like I really appreciate it. But I think that the world is missing out by not using these mantras. Is something very deep, and especially those into spirituality. There's something that it's like a treasure that's just there for us. You know what I mean? I do see what you mean, though, with the different how to say, those aligning factors. But I think one thing that the rap and the Vedas and the Shastras can do is, like, the more you understand something, the more it affects you. So, like, you might have a mantra and you've been given it. Like, it's very common for a guru to give you a mantra and you ask what it means. Say, you will find out. You will find out what it means, right?
Yeah.
So
eventually.
But then through explanation, these understandings can actually help us to tap into the mantra more.
Yes, totally. And on that note, like, one of the trends that we've been seeing very strongly come through in the last 6 to 8 months to a year is this trend around bhajan clubbing. That's the term that's officially being coined for the space around this, which is, for over a long period of time, things like harikatha, things like bhajans, satsangs have been going on. So it's not a new thing, but it's just that I think in the Instagram Gen Z world of it, it's now becoming cooler, or in some way picking a wave or picking a trend in some way. So I think it might be interesting to just get your thoughts on how do you see the space around this evolve. Like, have you heard other people who are doing this sort of type of things, anything like that?
I think there might be a couple people doing rap. I mean, I'm not too sure. I don't know. There's no one of note. There's no one who is, popular or whatever, or famous or anything. We have had a lot of famous people sort of read Bhagavad Gita and stuff like that. There's this really nice album by Janavi and Willow Smith, which I thought was really nice. But it's more, again, traditional. Where you're talking about this bhajan clubbing, this is actually sounding pretty cool, I mean, in the West over here, we're getting a lot of kind of what they're calling things like tribal house and spiritual house and stuff like that, where they are introducing these kind of more Asian, kind of more South Asians, like Indian and Arabic sounds into the sound. But in terms of in India, I've been to like events on the street and that, where you might as well say it's bhajan clubbing, right? But if it's like,
Yeah.
I think it's a really positive thing because, you know, we should be utilizing popular modern memes. You know, we should
To
be,
connect to the people.
yeah, and
Totally.
like, end of the day, we're not the type of spiritual path that is kind of condemning if this or that is done, you know. Like, there are obviously the traditional aspects which we all respect, and like, you know, we would never go into a temple and put the rave style bhajan on, right? But like
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
young
Yeah.
people, you know, and also to anything that can increase your absorption into spirit, this, you know, Sanatana Dharma is a good thing. And that's why, you know, in our faith, you know, they don't have this, don't do that, you know. Like the gopis in Vrindavan, they were all acting like Krishna. I'm Krishna, look, like they were acting,
Yeah.
yeah. They were
Yeah.
singing, they were dancing, they were crying, you know. So anything that can increase that, and it sounds like you know, it would be in the spirit of, right? If you're dancing, if you're, so normally you'd go to these raves or whatever, and it would just be total materialism, you know. But
Yeah.
now this is good. This is
Yeah.
something that I think also is in the, you know, like Prabhupada when he came over, he revolutionized things, you know. He made proper anthology books. He got an art team together to do like impressionist paintings of Krishna, so it looks more real. Like all these different adjustments he made for the time. And I think we should also be thinking like this. We should always be using these popular mediums. Even now, you know, sometimes on Instagram you see they will have like voiceovers of Mahabharat, right? Or something like that. And they will use AI to make the imagery.
Yes.
It's, you know, it's good, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally with you. And
Where
like
is
we
this
have
happening,
been
by the
doing
way?
some yeah, so we have been doing some bit of research looking at different types of startups that are engaging in this space, and we are again picking up very interesting trends there. So there are startups which are doing virtual reality immersions into these heritage temples or temples which have been demolished over a period of time, but they are recreating it virtually, looking at Skanda Puran and other Purans to look at the descriptions which were
Right.
there about the temple in those scriptures, and then using that in the imagery that they are creating, and being so specific to the extent that this is the specific example is that of Sharada Peeth. This is in what is now Pakistan occupied Kashmir, and there the Sharada Peeth, they go into the finer detail of the woods being used or the
Right.
wood description that they had given in Skanda Puran, and then they use that and then look at how does the Kashmiri willow look like, and use the same texture, the same dating of the wood to look at all of that nuanced detail into creating the visual representation, right? So that's a very, very interesting way of how a startup like Who We Are, for example, is doing this. And then there are also startups which are now creating board games. Now we have to be engaging with different audiences, right? So rap and music probably is talking to the 18 to maybe 40 age group predominantly, which is now the age group that's mostly on Instagram, for example. But if you look at the age group of, let's say, 5 to 18, for engaging with them, you need board games. And you have a monopoly, you have a trade, all of that, but can we also have now Indic inspired board games? And there is the startup which is called Sutradhar, and they have these board games on Kurukshetra. They're called Rangbhumi. So it's like your Snake and Ladder, but it's done in
The
different
Mahabharat.
format in some way. So that's extremely interesting space that we have been observing over the last 6 months, sort of 3-4 years or so.
I mean, are you aware that the Snakes and Ladders is Indian?
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
Chaturang. So even chess is that way, right? So chess is Chaturang. So
Yeah.
chess
But
has
it's
the
like
historical
about,
roots.
you know, karma. Yeah,
Yeah,
so you land on the snake and you know. So yeah, I think board games are definitely you know, they're still selling, you know, they're doing very well. I think it's just about you know, because they call it like reskinning, right? So you can take a Monopoly and you can change it into Harry Potter Monopoly or whatever, you know, but it's still the same game, right? So I think you could do something very interesting with a Mahabharat board game, right? But it would take a lot of development. because it's trying to do something that's very dynamic, you know, the war itself, and plus the storyline, it would have to sort of follow the storyline. I think that in terms of games, definitely there's a lot of potential, because there's basically what I would consider an underdevelopment of Vedic themes and narratives in video games, in movies, in animations. And actually, if you look at, because you know you've read a lot of this, right? So you know, right? But most people, they don't. You say to them, "What's have you heard of Ram and Sita?" They're like, "No," but this is the most epic story that lends itself to a video game, right? So you know, I think, I don't know why. Maybe it's because of the development of India. You know, the obviously 2 times colonization and whatnot, and still recovering from these things. And I feel like now things are getting more into the cutting edge. Like India is really coming up, but I think in certain aspects, it's good to also get some specialists in. You see what I mean? So, like, if you're gonna make a board game or a video game, get some specialists that worked on successful games or whatever to help with the project. Because I think that in terms of right now, India is known as tech. It's known for its tech, especially like programming and stuff like that. So the other side, the development of the creative industries, obviously you've got like sort of Bollywood side of things. But in terms of like the Hollywood side of things, like the serious drama and the sort of thing, and also video games, there's nothing out there. But you've got a lot of these Western companies that are using certain times to use Indian aspects. So there's like they'd be like, okay, well, you know, let's add an Indian level, let's throw some statues of Ganesh up there, you know, but nothing, no respect given to Ganesh, or you know, no knowledge being departed there or whatever. So you know, I went quite deep into the games because I studied games after later in life, so I got that sort of input. But I think definitely video games, there's a lot of potential, but it's just we just need the investment and the people who sort of care about this side of it, you know. Because every time I go to India and see them playing on the phones, they're playing Western games. Yeah. So we've got millions.
Totally with you, and like we have been hearing that spread. Yes. Because like we have been hearing from our research also a couple of trends. One is there are these couple of new startups like Leela Land Studios and people like that who are creating like Dashavatar universe for the game. So there's a bit of that trend coming up. And on the money side of it, there has been some effort. So there's an Indology conference which happened sort of couple of months ago. There's a bit of corporate CSR money that's now interested in this space. So I think a bit of change is happening in this space, both in terms of ideas and in terms of money backing the ideas, particularly in the last year or so when it comes to gaming industry. So I'm definitely with you on the potential, and probably we are at that initial curve in some way of looking at realizing what the potential might evolve into types. And like, you had developed a game yourself as well, right? And then like, you also had a graphic novel thing. So maybe we can talk a bit about those other creative expression forms that you have undertook yourself.
Yeah, so I'll start with the games, because they're a little bit shorter. Basically I've got 2 prototype games. One is basically a mobile free fighting Mahabharat pixel art game. So it's like a survival game. And the idea is that instead of playing as someone like Arjuna, right, who survives, you just play as this like lowly little band of a little squadron somewhere, right? You're just trying to survive. So it's got the elephants, it's got the chariots, and it's all sort of done in a top-down view. So you're sort of running around. And the key thing with this game, because every game needs something a bit more unique, right, is that you control the whole squad, and the squad uses. So if you press a button, they change the formation. So, and these formations are based from the Mahabharat formations. So you've got the chakra, you've got the Garuda and whatnot. So that was kind of like a, survival pixel art hack and slash kind of game based on the Mahabharata.
Nice.
But the idea being that further development, or like let's say part 2, we can start to incorporate some of these bigger characters. It's just because it's just me and my partner working that we need a team for this, right? The other one is I made a game. It's called Save the Cows. So
Okay.
you basically play as Krishna, and you have unlimited powers, right? Because you're Bhagawan, and you fly around the universe freeing cows from the slaughterhouses, right? And this is now like this is a 3D, fully 3D. You might think of it like Zelda. It's kind of like a mix between Zelda, Mario, and Krishna, right? So
Nice. Interesting.
what happens is you have to kind of lead the cows back to the spiritual world, but the guards and that, they can kill the cows, so they can shoot the cows. So you actually have to defend the cows.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not about you. Like in games, it's more about you take the damage and we have to start again. No, it's about the cows. So the whole idea is like it's like all open world, and you fly around, and each of the islands that you land on, they are done in a Sanskrit word. So and the whole thing is a sloka from Mahabharata, which is something like, let cows be around me, cows in front and cows all around, something like this. So that's kind of also like an idea, because then we could just have because we have a multi-universe system. So you could just go into different universes, and so that was the other game, and it's done in a very kind of cute kind of style. Yeah. Kind of like cutesy kind of anime.
I think we should do another episode where we go just deep down into your gaming stuff, and maybe we can even do like a part visual demo of these worlds, because like this is super interesting. I mean, I think we should do another one where we do a deep dive on that one, because how you conceptualize and visualize the world seems to be super interesting, both like taking inspiration from Mahabharata while situating it in the modern world in some way, and making the contemporary and the traditional worlds in some way talk to each other is super interesting as a premise that we should definitely do a deeper down another conversation on.
And we can also look at the games that are using Indian culture, and just see how you feel about that, because I think that's not a conversation that's had that much. But as well with this game particularly, I say to everybody, here's this game. It's called Kurukshetra. They're like, how do you say that? They look at, I show them the word, they say, how do you even pronounce that? So, but when I say to them, there's this game called Save the Cows, they're like, what? That's crazy. And there's something about cows that just makes everyone quite happy, They're like, oh, wow, that's interesting, that's fun. And then they start playing it, and they're just sort of lost in there,
It's an easy game to start with. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, and it's one of those ones that I'd say it's more about, like, say, the Mahabharata style games, they're about telling our story, right? They're about preserving our story. But these kind of games, it's more about expressing with our culture. You see what I mean? Because so I think there's also that distinction to be made.
Nice.
So yeah, that's the games. And what happened is basically after I did college, like in the UK we have college then university. So I didn't go university for many years, and then eventually I wanted to become a teacher. So I had to have a degree. So that's where I chose games instead of music, because I've been doing music for so long that there wasn't really much that I could gain from doing a university degree. So I went to so that's when I started getting into the games. And while I was commuting, I had this 1-hour journey on a very kind of nice and comfortable train. And that's when I started thinking, let me just do something with this time. And that's where I made the graphic novel, the Soul Wars. I'll show you here. Yeah, so this is it.
Soul Wars.
Soul Wars, yeah.
And it has this feel of a bit of an anime, bit of your Jedi, all of that in it. Oh, nice.
It's kind of, it's not too serious. It's quite fun. It's
nice.
It's quite satirical, but it's also got quite a broad appeal. So as you say, if you're into anime or comics or anything, you could be into this. But then if you're into Indian spirituality, you could be into this. If you're into like Especially so it's based on the Kalki Purana, the Kalki Avatar, which is loosely following the Kalki Puran, and I've designed it in a way to have this kind of really kind of punchy art style. So it's kind of using the sort of the darks
Chalo
and the
Vrindavan.
light,
Okay, nice.
Chalo Vrindavan, and then you've got like say things like this where like right in the middle the guru is there and then the deva's coming out. So a lot of that is in there, and I was able to just sort of have fun with it. I just loosely wrote out the sort of chapter titles and stuff and then just went for it. But it does, the story of Kalki Puran, the story in the Kalki Puran is pretty clear as to his general life, So I'm just kind of following it in a general sense, but then because it's also quite vague, I'm able to inject so many things. And because it's based 100,000 years in the future, I'm able to get those like dystopian future cities
thinking.
and the flying vehicles, the bounty hunters, all this kind of fun stuff, So yeah, I've just got that produced last year, I think, or the year before. So I've been selling it in the UK, and I've recently made a online version, so a digital version, so you can sort of look at it on your phone.
Nice.
It's been
Super
quite
interesting. I
an
think we should definitely
interesting
put
journey.
the links to those things. If you can send us over those links, we'll definitely put those up on the description to this video. So that it's super interesting. I think definitely we are doing a follow-up episode on a couple of things, right? On this game deep down and the graphic novel deep down. We should definitely do another one in a couple of months' time, just to go deep down into those ones. Super interesting.
Yeah, I think it's.
Thanks so much, Ishen. I think it was like a fascinating conversation that we were having. I think super interesting. Any closing thoughts that you have, or do you want to maybe close with a rap to close the episode on?
Yeah, maybe we'll save the rap for another time. I'll try and hook up the music and stuff as well. I did a little rap a little earlier, so we'll go like that.
Yeah.
But obviously, you can see all my stuff on my YouTube and my Instagram. But I think I would just like to say, just because I think we are sort of mainly speaking to the Hindu diaspora across the world, and those also into Vedic spirituality, because Vedic spirituality is not Indian only, right? This is a universal philosophy, and it's for the human being. And in the ancient days, I remember I was watching this guy. He was on even this Novara channel, and he was talking about in the past, only like 500 years ago or 1,000 years ago, 2/3 of the world was Sanatan. Yeah. So this is something that is really about human heritage. And so I just want to say, for everyone who's into, who might not be from India or whatever, then this is welcome for you, yeah. And for those who are, looking to progress this spiritual culture and to preserve the spiritual culture, get involved in the modern medias, yeah. Use the modern medias to do this. You can write books, you can write poetry, rap, music, you can do arts, you can do dance, you can do all kinds of expressions, you can make games, you can make animations, you can make, so I think we just need more creatives to jump on this train, and I think what we need is to set up some sort of collective or some sort of company or some sort of thing that we can actually speak, because we haven't had the development that we need. So we need to put in that groundwork of bringing our thoughts together, create, and actually make these kind of modern media companies or media things that can work on long-term games. A AAA game takes 3 years minimum, so why isn't there a Ramayan game, like a fully PS5, Xbox, PC? Why isn't there that follows the whole story of the Ramayan, So I think for all of those that are inclined, keep creating, and we need to somehow come together. Nice. Thank you. Namaskar, namaste.